Welcome to the Man Sports Fan podcast. I'm Philip, hashtag FlyPhil. I'm your host tonight. Back being the host. I was on hiatus. Last time I was actually traveling from Wisconsin to Colorado. But filling in for me was Chris Smith 9, the D correspondent who's here. And then we have a newcomer, Matt Smith on the piano. Let's give him a round of applause. Just really happy you're here, Matt. Man, how does it feel to be here? We're excited to have you, man.
Man, I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to chatting about some sports and maybe some little bit of BS every once in a while as well.
There's lots of BS on this program. Where are you? So we can't see you, which is very sad.
Yes.
If you are watching on YouTube, which we are now on, or on Spotify, Matt Smith has a black screen. Where do you live now, or where are you at right now?
I live in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Just a little bit west of Sheboygan. So if you're ever out in the area, Elkhart Lake has Road America. It's a beautiful little area. Definitely a spot to get to check out if you're in Wisconsin. There's no doubt about it.
I was gonna say, I feel like Hayden and Matty G would know about that place because they know about every town in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Well, dude, yeah, happy you're here. Originally just gonna be me and Chris tonight, and they said you want it on, and it was like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. So yeah, happy you're here. Man Sports Fan is on all platforms now. This is thanks to Chris Smith 9, the D correspondent. We've just been on Spotify mostly, but now we're on Apple Podcast, we're on YouTube, we're on iHeartRadio, and we're also on Amazon Music. So there's really no excuse to why you shouldn't or can't listen to us, because we are literally on everything. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, if you are, especially if you're on YouTube, but any of these others, if you subscribe to us, that actually helps us even just know, hey, here who's listening, that kind of thing. So please do that if you're on any of these platforms. Chris, do you want to add anything to this?
No, it's cool to be on those. So if you listen on Spotify, you can actually watch the video, but the other ones you can just hear the audio. So it's something that, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you gotta go to Spotify. Also, this is episode 30 tonight. It's kind of like a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, and this was kind of called last second. Like I missed last podcast. And so I just kind of got the itch. And then Chris was like on it. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I don't think this will be a regular thing. I don't think we'll do 2 times a week, but yeah, it's definitely worth making it happen. Now the last top 5 that our whole crew did was Wisconsin cities or towns or villages. And if you remember, this was probably 20 minutes of the podcast. There was a lot of chatter about Wisconsin cities. And so they wanted to hear what mine originally top 5 were. So I'll go quick because just for time's sake. But my number 1 is Madison, which a lot of you said. It's probably my favorite city in Wisconsin. We got Eau Claire. Grew up there. Eau Claire Memorial Old Abe. Shout out Eau Claire Memorial. Great place. Loved living there. It's super cool now. Much cooler than when I was growing up there, actually. Number 3, Whitewater, just for the memories. This is where we all met. And then I'm like Chris, I really didn't I don't travel the Wisconsin cities really. So 4 for me is Sister Bay, which is in Door County. And I was dating a girl and her family had a condo up there. So we went up to Sister Bay all the time. And man, it's just a beautiful place in Door County. I think it's my favorite little town there. And they got Al Johnson's Pancake House, which is it's like a Swedish, they have like a Swedish or Sweden gift shop there, but it's like crepes. That's kind of their specialty. But they have like a grass roof with goats on top of the roof feeding on the grass.
Oh,
yeah, it's so sick. That's an awesome place. And then number 5 for me would be Three Lakes or / Eagle River. I went to a camp there called Camp Luther for many years, and I just have such fond memories of that place. just super cool area. Northern Wisconsin is just awesome. So if you get a chance to go up north, do it. It's just a different type of Wisconsin than especially southeast Wisconsin. And so I just loved going there growing up. Matt, did you want to add any? Did you have a top 5 for us?
I listened to the podcast last week here, and I heard Rosser talk about going to a bunch of breweries and his how he liked to go out, and when he went to Wisconsin cities, he'd check out different spots. It's kind of my thing too. I like to go see different spots and what they offer, and there's a lot of really, really fun towns along Wisconsin. I've been taken my wife around the state here in the last 5 years or so, kind of just checking out different spots and breweries and distilleries and wineries and all the fun things that Wisconsin has to offer. I mean, obviously a little bit partial of it. I mentioned it before. I'm from Elkhart Lake. It's definitely a spot that people need to check out if you're ever up in the area. Sheboygan, it's a little lost gem on the east side of the state. Kind of gets caught between Green Bay and Milwaukee. Three Sheeps Brewing is right there, so you can't not want to come see it if you're going to be right that close. I also was I heard Hayden mention Green Bay. Green Bay is not only does it have the stadium, but it has a great brewery scene. There's at least 8 breweries there that have amazing beers and ambiance there. Lake Geneva, just being what it is. I mean, obviously you get a lot of the tourists. It's kind of a little bit of a trap during the summer, but during the winter, it's a really fun spot to swing into. Eau Claire, I only went there for one time. I got lost. I felt like I was driving in a circle a whole bunch of times down around downtown. It felt like if I hit one spot, I'd find another spot that I was back into in the same one again.
It really is like that. It really is, especially the downtown area.
Yeah. So, but other than that, what a really neat and fun area to look at, and there's a brewery up there that just blows it out of the water right by the you just go out there, you're just in a good spot, great sour beers. And then I would say Milwaukee. I mean, I know that Milwaukee is kind of the down city, and when you think about crime and all that stuff, but what a neat area to go look at, and so many different things to go to. Just a rich history. Love it. So
yeah, I'd never been to Milwaukee until I was 16. Went to a Cubs Brewers game, and I think Sammy Sosa hit a double, but the Cubs lost. So it's kind of
Hey Phil, what was the most memorable Cubs game you went to at Miller Park?
Oh, it was actually against the Astros, believe it or not. And
Carlos Zambrano.
Good old Carlos Zambrano throw that no hitter. So
Phil and I were both there, and we didn't know each other were there. It's the best part.
Yeah, that is very true. I actually went with some Frisbee guys. So, well, hey, it was going to be me and Chris together. And so my original question for us to start was, what are your favorite songs with a number 2 in them? Right. I was just thinking, just the 2 of us. Okay. But anyway, it's all 3 of us now. And so the question is for you guys, what is your favorite trio or trilogy? If you had to stake your claim on one.
Okay, so my honorable mention is the Watt brothers, JJ, TJ, Derek Watt. Wisconsin pride, all made the NFL, studs. But I have to go with Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and Goldmember is an insanely good trio and still lives up to the day. One of Michael Myers' best performances, and extremely quotable, and it's just a great laugh. Every movie's a great laugh. And I actually think what's great about that trilogy is that Goldmember might be the best of the 3, and that was 3rd. And that doesn't always happen with trilogies. So I'm going Austin Powers.
I did not see that coming. That was awesome.
Same.
That's awesome. What about you, Matt?
Man, I sat and wrapped my head around this one a little bit when I was thinking about it. I gave myself a little, like Chris, a little bonus one. The Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez 2016 trio, man, the one that kind of led you to your title, and it was that was something that was special and fun to watch. But growing up, I was a big Bulls fan, so my big three were Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. Little bit of Rodman was the guy who would just take care of all the dirty work. Well, Jordan and Pippen took all the accolades, and I'm gonna tell you what, you add in a little Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, the Australian wonder Luke Longley, and you just put them all together, and that was just one fun team to watch. I've never seen a better brand of basketball than watching that, and then they were physical and fun. I'm going to tell you what, that was good stuff.
Yeah, Tony Kukoc, Bill Wennington.
Yes.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah, that was so fun. Yeah, I think for me, my head just went to movies or book series. So maybe this wouldn't be the way that Hayden would go, but this is the way I'm going to go. Just kidding, Hayden. But for me, it's Lord of the Rings, just because that has played such a prominent role in my life. In terms of movies, I think out of action movies in particular, or fantasy movies, whatever, it definitely sits probably as the best trilogy ever. And you can make an argument that the books are just as good as the movies, which often is not the case. So I'm going to go a bit of a different spin than sports, but and then I think my runner-up or my honorable mention is the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Batman Returns. And while Batman Returns is by far the worst of the three, it's still pretty good when it comes down to it. Yeah, and Hines Ward was in that movie, so
he was.
It's a good nugget.
Yeah. Well, speaking of football, let's transition here. We want to talk about the Packers a little bit. We're not going to do necessarily prediction stuff related to NFC, AFC, Packers even. But we did get pretty big news this week that Jaire Alexander out for the year with a knee injury. He had been playing with a torn PCL. Had tried to come back maybe a little bit too early, played 10 snaps. I think I want to say against the Jaguars maybe. Or maybe it was the Jaguars game he got hurt. They came back a couple weeks later, played 10 snaps, and just couldn't play. In essence, they said that he had knee swelling, all this kind of stuff. So he ends up getting surgery. And really the only hope of him coming back this year is if we maybe made the Super Bowl. So what are your thoughts on that? How does that affect the Packers?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The whole reporting on this situation was weird because there was sort of this feeling that he just didn't want to play. And there's been a lot of speculation about, like, will he ever play for the Packers again? But then as more information came out this week, it kind of just seems like he tried to come back multiple times. And like you said, knee was swelling and ultimately just decided he had to shut it down. So it's sort of conflicting in terms of what the reporters were sharing, what LaFleur was sharing. It's kind of an odd situation. In terms of how this hurts the Packers, I think it does significantly because if you think about their path to potentially the Super Bowl, you're going to be facing a team like Philly, who has A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, potentially the Vikings, who have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and the Lions, who have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. So you're going to be facing a lot of teams with pretty good receivers. And Jaire, I mean, he's just a lockdown corner that we've been obviously missing for a long time, but we're going to feel that come playoff time when teams are really bringing their A game. And so I think it's a huge loss. But I'm thinking more longer term too. I'm curious what his future is with the Packers because I do think there's some unknown with that I would like more clarity on as time goes on because this may be a position that jumps to the top of the board in terms of need for the Packers moving forward too.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I wasn't all that surprised to hear about the news that he was going to have season-ending surgery. I kind of just felt like the last few years. It just you get that injury. He's coming back. He's doing full practices, but just couldn't make the games. I mean, I hate to say this, but this is probably his last game as a Packer. I mean, you can't afford to pay a guy that I think I saw before that in the last 4 years he's played about 53% of the games. That's a tough thing to pay somebody top-notch value. And now, is he worth it? Yes. I think when he's healthy, he's one of the best, if not the best corner out there. But it's hard to pay him when you're looking at. I heard something say about David Bakhtiari, and David Bakhtiari comparisons about how it came to the end of his career and he missed a lot of his games and we were paying him. I don't necessarily agree that it's the same, but it does strike enough comparison where you have to wonder, is it worth the money to pay somebody for 6, 7, 8 games a year? I mean, our team is way better with him on the field. There's no doubt about it. Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine. Those are good corners. Nixon and Stokes, I would say, wouldn't be on my favorite list if you were talking about people I want to cover people, especially Jamison Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're going to get burned every time, in my opinion. But I also think that we have a nice couple of good rookies. I like Evan Williams. If he can get healthy, I think that makes a world of difference in our team. If our defensive back group as a whole can get more healthy, and if we can move Stokes maybe to a maybe not so prominent role, I actually do like our defensive back group. I just don't think we're as good without Ja. It does hurt us in the playoffs. I think it's sad to think that this is his last game, as it might have been his last game that we've seen him play as a Packer.
Yeah, if he was going to play, I watch or I read some Ken Ingall stuff he's on Twitter and he does a lot of like the cap, Packers cap stuff and explains it really well. Yeah, check him out on there. I think, Ken Ingalls is his name. But he in essence said that he would be playing for about $18 million. So in essence, you want to pay him $18 million next year and then potentially pay him more money the next. So, and it's an interesting question considering like what you said, Matt, if he's playing about 50% of the games roughly, is that worth it? Right? If you pay him $18 million, if he's there for 3/4 of the game, maybe it's worth it. But his track record isn't showing. He's only going to be 28 entering in the league next year. He's not that old, but this is around the time, 28, 29, especially if you're a cornerback, where the wheels can fall off pretty quickly. And so, yeah, it definitely hurts our team. I think the silver lining is that we just haven't had them. So Stokes, Valentine, Nixon, they've had to play. And I think as a group, as a unit, they've actually gotten better throughout those weeks. But Jaire just changes it where you can play a lot more man-to-man coverage. You can put him on that best receiver or that second best receiver. And so, yeah, I think I think everybody's kind of holding out hope, that he'll be able to play in the playoffs. And so, yeah, to hear that he's going to be out, again, it doesn't change our team that much the way it currently is because we've been doing this now for 6 weeks or whatever it is. But, yeah, I think it's definitely kind of a take a wind out of your sails kind of thing for the playoffs because I just think we thought he was going to be back. Any last thoughts on him before we move?
He's the Chris Middleton of the Green Bay Packers.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Well, hey, the Packers play the Bears this weekend. Last time I looked, they're 9.5-point favorites. So obviously Vegas likes us to win the game. If you were a betting man, would you bet for the Packers to beat the spread, to kind of beat them by at least 10 points or more, or for the Bears to cover? And we don't need a ton of explanation here, but yeah, what would you go? Would you, again, bet the Packers to beat the spread or for the Bears to cover it?
I would pick the Bears to cover. I don't think the Packers are going to play their starters all game. If Washington gets up early on the Cowboys, the Packers have no reason to go full throttle for the whole game. So I do think the starters will at least play a half. And if the Bears can kind of hang in there for a half, I think the second half could even out in terms of like the Bears outscoring us. So I think the Bears will cover. I still think the Packers will win though. But I would say closer than 9.5. I'd say more like 3 or 4.
Yeah, and I'm in that same boat. I would think the Packers should still come on top this weekend. I would expect it to be closer than 9.5. Assuming the second half we do sit any of the starters, I'd put it at a 23-17 sort of victory, right around that point.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear like the Rams are going to sit Stafford for Jimmy Garoppolo. And there's like implications in their game where they could
Yeah.
be either the 5 seed or the 6 seed, or I should say the 4 seed or the 3 seed. And if they lose, they're probably the 4 seed, and they would play the Vikings or the Lions. So like it's just interesting the way they're doing it, because I think for us, like we're definitely going to play our starters, and I think because of the way the offense looked, especially first half against Minnesota, I think LaFleur wants them to get out and play really clean football. But to your point, to both of your points, I think you're right. I think especially if the Commanders are up big, we won't play the Stars the whole game. And so, yeah, I think the Bears will have something to prove. I think if the Bears won a game since
No.
week
Not
6,
nope.
No, they were
Okay.
4-2. Haven't won since.
Gosh. So, like, I think if anything, they're going to have some incentive to come out in Lambeau and try to upset the Packers, right? This is a rivalry. So I would also assume that the Bears cover, but I think the Pack will win because I just think we're a much better team than them.
I think sort of my hot take on it is I would not play Josh Jacobs on Sunday. I think he's that valuable to the team. I would definitely play Jordan Love for the reasons you said, to stay in rhythm. Obviously, I don't think Christian Watson should play. Don't know if he's trending to anyway. I would play Love for a while, but I would not play Josh Jacobs. They need him to make any sort of run in the playoffs, and there's no reason to trot him out there Sunday.
I mean, along that same note, would you agree that maybe they shouldn't start maybe Edger and Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Quay Walker comes back too,
Yeah.
because you have some of these guys that are practicing, but how much are you going to play them? But I think you play Cooper some. Again, though,
Right.
if you're way up or if the Commanders are up, you don't need this game. You just don't need it at that point.
Right.
You know you're going to be the 7th seed and locked into that. So, be interesting what they do. Hey, well, let's move on to some other NFL topics. I feel like there's a lot of interesting things going on in the NFL right now, or as Week 18 approaches. You actually have a lot of teams where nothing really matters, where in essence they don't really have anything to play for. You have some games that are up in the air in terms of seeding, and they talked about that on the last Man podcast. But Saquon Barkley, he's sitting at roughly 2,000 yards. Has he already hit the 2,000-yard mark?
Yeah, he hit 2,000.
Yes, over
Yeah,
2,000.
so he's already above this. He's around over 100 yards roughly from Eric Dickerson's record, being the single season rushing record in the NFL.
Yep.
And so the question is, right, that I think has been kind of percolating within, especially sports media. I know the Philadelphia Eagles is should Saquon play on Sunday or should he sit? So Chris, Matt, should Saquon be sat on Sunday? Yes or no, and why?
100% yes. Same reason I said about Josh Jacobs. If the Eagles want to make a run in the playoffs, they need a 100% healthy Saquon Barkley. The record's great, but from what I've seen in terms of like some videos of Saquon, I don't think he cares that. Like, I think getting the record would be awesome, but I think he's a team first kind of guy, and totally understands why they would sit him. And the Eagles are legit and have a chance to make the Super Bowl. I wouldn't jeopardize it. Like, I think records are cool, but there's also additional game now that Eric Dickerson didn't have, so there'd be an asterisk anyway. Like, to me, you sit him, you have him ready for the playoffs, and you go full throttle.
You should look at the carries, by the way. The carries, he's like 30 less carries. But anyway, you're
Okay,
right, though.
interesting.
The games, but he is 30.
Yeah.
He is 30 less carries. Matt, what's
Yeah.
your take?
Yeah, this one is a little bit of a hard one for me. I mean, you got history on the line, right? You got a team already locked into the 2 seed, resting their quarterback, possibly their backup quarterback because he's got a rib injury, and a bunch of other starters going to miss the game. I think as a fan of the NFL, you want to see Saquon get his chance at it, right? I mean, you want to see him go out there and potentially set a record. To me, that is something that anybody who wants to see a casual football game wants to see, right? Now, I heard Chris you just said this. There's an asterisk, right? But there's no asterisk for injuries, and there's no asterisk for anything else. If you could do that in 15 games versus whatever, I just think that I when you look at the overall, could Saquon get it? I think if he played this weekend, he would. Now, would I play him? Absolutely not. I think he needs to sit. I think he needs to be healthy. I think getting him ready for the playoffs and most likely against the Packers is going to be best for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that's the way they should play it.
See, I've thought about this a lot. I think they should play him. The regular season should matter. It shouldn't always just be about titles. I think we've made it only about titles, about Super Bowls. And I get that, right? There's even like Hall of Fame implications to that. I would play him because he has a chance to make history in a way that this could never be broken again. Like, it's possible the way that the running back's treated. Granted, this year has maybe changed things with how the running back is treated. But he's 30 less carries than Eric Dickerson. And here's the thing. I mean, Saquon could easily get the record in one half, and then you sit him. It's that he's that kind of player. I just want the regular season to matter more. And this is one of those records. I think the passing records were kind of like, because of the way that the league has changed. I don't think anybody ever thought that some running back would break this record based on the way the running backs have been used in the last 10 years. So I would play him, but I totally understand whether or not. But I think for lineage or for NFL lore, I would play him. And I think Saquon even said, he said initially he didn't care. He said he sat on it and he really wanted to play, but he understands why he's being sit out. He said his dad is the most broken up about it. That his dad is the one that wishes he would play and break the record.
Like, as a dad, or you're a dad, and Chris, obviously you're a dad. I mean, like, your son's out there doing it. How do you not want them to break this record and his name to be on top of the leaderboard, right?
Because that's the thing. I just don't.
Yeah.
Who's going to do this again? I just don't know if there will be anybody.
There's unbreakable records. We can talk about Cal Ripken's endless game streak. That's never going to get broken. I'm pretty sure that'll never happen again. But this one is in reach. I feel like we are getting robbed of it if we don't see it.
Chris, you're the final thought.
I just think hoisting a Super Bowl trophy is way cooler than hosting an individual record. But that's just me.
I mean, he came from the Giants, so...
Yeah, and it would be against the Giants. I mean, that would be pretty sick.
He was funny. He was like, I actually would like doing it with them because I had such a good career in New York. He's such a classy guy, man.
Yeah.
He really is.
Saquon's the freaking man. Well, hey, so we have one really good player. Mike Evans has a chance to reach 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season. He needs 85 yards. If he does it, he'll make $3 million on top of his salary. Will he reach it? The Buccaneers are playing who at home? The Saints. Playing the Saints at home.
I think there's a 99.9% chance he gets the record. Baker's even said, like, if we win the game, that means Mike Evans got the record. They're going to force feed him. He needs the record. He needs to get 11 straight years. That is an amazing stat. And he missed, 4 games this year, too? Maybe even 5? And is still going to get 1,000 yards, potentially. So, what a stud. Definitely a Hall of Famer. Someone that kind of gets overlooked in the world, too. Like, in the world of receivers. So, I love Mike Evans. I hope he gets it.
Yeah, it's undoubtedly the Bucs are gonna roll this weekend, man. They're gonna come out there. They're gonna throw 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first half. They're gonna sit the starters in the second half. The Saints just obviously aren't that great, but I expect Mike Evans to go for at least 85 yards in the first half. Hopefully, enough time for him to sit down in the second half and enjoy his nice payday afterwards.
Yeah, I think he gets it. I mean, unless an injury happens or something weird happens, he's going to get it. Because you're right, the Saints have nobody, and they traded Marshawn Lattimore. He's out of there now. Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans is usually a really good matchup, cornerback wide receiver, but we won't even get that with this matchup. So I think he'll break it. We have other players that have incentives coming up, and there's a decent amount of, like, especially edge rushers, so that they get one more sack, or one more tackle for loss or something. They get an extra $250,000. But there's a couple interesting ones. I just want to note it, and for you guys, maybe what do you find the most fun to kind of think about? So quarterback Geno Smith is 185 passing yards away from a $2 million bonus. And he also needs just over a 69.7% completion rate, so around 70%, to hit another $2 million bonus. And he's a win shy of another $2 million bonus. So Geno Smith could have $6 million more in his bank account after Sunday. So that's kind of crazy. We already talked about Mike Evans. Zach Ertz is 9 receptions away from hitting a $250K bonus. He's also 90 yards receiving away from another $250K bonus. And he's 2 receiving touchdowns away from a $250K bonus. So he could be sitting more pretty with $750K. Linebacker Von Miller, he can make $1.5 million more with one more sack. I don't know if he needs more money, but he can do it with one more sack. And then Kyler Murray's 50 yards rushing away, plus 1 rushing touchdown away from a $750,000 salary escalator or bump. For you guys, what is maybe the most interesting or fun one out of those?
I'm not going to pick one that you said because I'm paying attention to something a little different this weekend. I'm paying attention to receptions. So this is not money related, but Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors are sitting at 108 and 104 receptions respectfully. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get Neighbors to bump ahead of Bowers to get up to that 110, 115 range. The other one out there is Jackson Smith and Jigba, which I don't know if people are really paying attention to him, but he's a superstar. If he gets 5 receptions on Sunday, he will break Tyler Lockett's Seattle Seahawks record of 101 receptions, and I think he'll get that. So those are kind of 2 that I'm interested in. Like I said, not financially related, but some young guys having some pretty big seasons that are. I mean, I don't think Bowers is flying under the radar, but I think JSN and Neighbors for sure are a little bit.
Yeah, the Geno Smith one, I mean, they have all those different categories of something to play for, right? 185 yards, $2 million bonus, 69.7% completion rate, $2 million more. Another win, $2 million more. I mean, like that to me adds so much intrigue to a game that really means nothing. I mean, at least for Geno Smith. But then you take that and you say, hey, Jackson Smith and the Jigba only needs 5 more catches to be the top receiver. Here you go. Here's another reason for Geno Smith to put that out there. I also love that old man himself, Von Miller, can make $1.5 million more with 1 sack. To me, that's crazy. I mean, they're locked into the 2 seed. Does he even play it down? I mean, or do we give a little Brett Favre situation with Michael Strahan? Does he get to come out there for 1 play and somebody takes a knee and he just takes the sack? I mean, for $1.5 million, maybe he gives him $500,000 for his time. I'm not sure, but I love the idea, and that's so much fun. And in a weekend that there's really not a whole lot of things going on, I think that at least these are kind of fun.
Yeah, the Geno Smith one is super fun. Von Miller, what is his career earnings, if you had to guess? How much salary has he made in his life, NFL salary?
Good gracious.
110? Matt, what do you got?
I was going to say 85.
188 million. And he can make another, what is it? Another 40, or should say 52 million in his life. So we'll see what he can do. But all this to say, I think I picked the Rams to win against the Seahawks. I think I'm going to change it based on this escalator because I feel like Geno Smith is going to play out of his mind. I mean, for him, like, He probably
Right.
starting next year for the Seahawks, probably. But they're probably going to draft somebody. You got to imagine, or at least, think about a bridge. And so, yeah, this could be his last kind of major payday, honestly, before it's all said and done.
Well, hopefully it's not a Matt Flynn type contract, right?
We talked about Matt. You guys talked about Matt Flynn a lot on the last podcast. Yeah. That's 6 touchdowns, man. I'm glad he got you that championship, Chris.
That's huge.
That's good. Okay. You have one name, MVP. At the end of week 18, again, this is a regular season award. Who wins it? Chris, give me a name.
I think Lamar Jackson should win it.
Okay. Matt?
Wow. I mean, if the heart would tell me anything, I would say Joe Burrow, but the answer is definitely Josh Allen.
Yeah. I'm going to go Josh Allen too. If the Bengals beat the Steelers and Joe Burrow throws like 6 TDs or something, and then they get in the playoffs because the Broncos and Dolphins choke, I think something will change in the potential, in the seeding. It wouldn't shock me if Joe Burrow won it. Why do you think?
It would
why
be
do you think
a
Lamar?
really fun story.
Oh yeah, totally. Why do you think Lamar, Chris?
I think Lamar's had the best season, but and he broke the rushing record. Like he's basically better than Josh Allen in all statistical categories. The thing I think is most interesting though, and Ryan Clark made this point, and this is something I was thinking about but couldn't really put it into words, is I think voter fatigue is a real thing. Like I think because Lamar's won it twice and Josh Allen hasn't, I don't think there's anything Lamar can do on Sunday that's going to jump him in terms of the voters. Because that's something that we just unconsciously think about. It's like, oh, he's already got 2. Josh Allen doesn't have one. He's a star. But if you look at it line him up on paper, I think Lamar's had the better season. Granted, he's got the better team around him, and they were expected to do better, but he's having the best season of his career.
I didn't realize 39 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's almost at 4,000 passing yards. Josh Allen has actually done less this year in some ways. It's just like the game against the Lions. It's like those kind of games that have stood out for him. I'm looking at what are the rushing. What are the rushing statistics? That's the thing I need to see.
It's not even close.
Is it
Josh
not?
Allen obviously has more rushing touchdowns, but Lamar has way more rushing yards.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me, but
you're right though. The voter fatigue thing I think is real. But I wonder if they just think, hey, he's done less with more with less. And that's why they're going to pick him.
Josh Allen definitely has done more with less. I mean, you think about Lamar all of a sudden getting Derrick Henry. That makes a little bit of a difference too. Derrick Henry's scored 20 plus touchdowns. That's a big deal when you look at that offense. I mean, I know when you look at it, it doesn't seem that big of a deal. But I mean, Lamar still has been great. But I mean, Josh Allen's had to do more with who? Did you think Amari Cooper made that big of a difference? Does anybody think that?
We lost you.
No, but I think their weapons. We caught you on the end, Matt. I think their weapons are better than people gave them credit for at the beginning of the year. I don't think they're stars, but I do think they have playmakers that we didn't fully expect to start the year.
All right. Well, it's really I think it is a 3-horse race. I think Burrow is in the conversation now. And if they make the playoffs, I think that weirdly changes it, actually. All right. And speaking of, I think, playoff seeding, this has kind of been a debate right now because of the way the Vikings and the way the NFC North has played out in particular. But some people have called for a change in the NFL playoff structure, right, where you kind of reseed the teams based on record. So the division records wouldn't get a home opening game, right? Like right now, it's going to be the Buccaneers most likely and the Rams that are going to get home playoff games, even though the records are worse than the Packers and the Vikings, at least most likely. Should they change it, or should they keep it the same of what it is right now? What do you think?
I think they should change it. I think winning the division is important, and I think if you win your division, you should get locked into the playoffs. But I think it should be seeded on record once you get to the playoffs, because this Lions-Vikings thing is really throwing a wrench in this whole problem, because they are the 2 best teams, and one of them's going to have to go on the road. week one in the playoffs to a team that they were clearly better than all season. So I'm all for divisions and the winner getting into the playoffs, but I would totally reseed once you get to the playoffs. And I know there's some flaws in that, like the AFC South is a horrible division. So the Texans have an inflated record, even though they're not that good. But I think you just kind of live with that a little bit, and you give the best teams the home games. The other thing I would like to see, I don't know how this is possible with 7 teams, is I would like to get back to 2 first-round buys. I just don't think 1 is enough, and it doesn't reward teams that had really good regular seasons.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement there, Chris. I don't know how you can have a team, and I do understand that you're in the same division, but just because you play in a poor division doesn't mean you automatically deserve a playoff home game. Yes, I agree that you should make the playoffs. I feel like there's got to be some sentiment to winning your division, but the best team should have the home games, and they've earned that by playing all 17 games that they play throughout the year. So if it's the Vikings that are at the end of the year with 2 losses and the Lions are with 3 losses and those are the best 2 teams, they should get the first seed and the second seed, and that's the way it should be. They earned it. There's a reason for it. We've seen it so many times going back, I don't know how many years, where a team under 500 gets that home game and beats that team that had 11 wins. So they were 11-5, and you're like, man, that, like, if that game was just a little bit different, if they wouldn't have got that home game, just because you have won in your division doesn't necessarily mean that you've earned a home game. I feel like getting into the playoffs is enough of a reward at that point.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys only because I want the divisions to matter more. Like, I think the divisions still should matter more, and it's easy in the moment because this is an anomaly year. I don't think we've ever seen something like this happen in the NFC North. Like, I can't even remember. I mean, we usually might have 3 good teams, right? I think of the AFC North is a good example of this. But one will be a game or 2 above 500. You know, like, in essence, they'll have like beaten a couple really good teams, but they'll kind of scrape in within the division. I don't think we've seen this where the Packers could be a 12-win team. The Vikings are a 14-win team at least. So are the Lions. This is almost unprecedented. And it does screw both of them. It 100% does. And then, yeah, I think, like you said, Matt, and we're talking about the chat here, it's like you do have these like 7 and 9 teams, or, what'll be now 8 and 9 teams that will have or will host a playoff game. And there is something unfair about it. I feel that as well. That's still an anomaly, though. It still doesn't always happen that way. It's not every year. I wouldn't even say it's every other year. And so I think I want the divisions to still matter more. Let's just hope that the AFC South gets better. We should just hope this gets better. Colts need to fire Ballard and Steichen probably, but yeah, I think I would keep it the same. But I do understand this idea of reseeding. I think I want the divisions to matter more, and I think the way it is, it currently makes it where it matters more.
I think divisions is sort of like an outdated model, though, right? Like, if we restarted NFL football or just pro sports, I think the idea of divisions wouldn't exist. I think the reason they exist is because of rivalries and like playing teams that are close to you, but and it does matter because you get in the playoffs. I just think it's just a weird system that was developed at some point that we can never get away from now because the Packers have to play the Lions and the Vikings and the Bears. It's just something that can't go away. So it's kind of
the NBA does this, where it's like they have divisions, but the divisions don't even matter though. Like, you probably couldn't even say who was in each division.
Yeah, but
right?
I don't think you can compare it to the NBA because more than half the team, 10 out of the 15 teams theoretically make the playoffs with the playing games now. And even when it was 8, it was still more than half the teams in the NBA made the playoffs.
That's ridiculous.
Stupid.
That's another reason why we should not like the NBA. Matt, we never asked you. I was going to ask you at the beginning. I forgot. Are
Yeah.
you an NBA guy, or are you more
No,
college
absolutely
basketball?
not. Honestly, the only time I've enjoyed watching the NBA was if it gets into round 2 or 3 of the playoffs when I start to see a little bit more defense and people trying a little harder. Until then, nope, no, I am not NBA basketball fan. So
I can't wait till Maddie listens to this. Well, I think Matt will probably, need to get some counseling after hearing what Matt said. He's probably going to be feeling that. Chris, do you want to tell us about this kind of new sponsor that's joined the Man Sports Fan podcast?
Yeah, pretty excited about this. Something that I definitely am going to be looking into in the future. But the Sportsman is sponsored by Penalty Box Relationship Counseling, the service for repairing bonds strained by your sports obsession. Missed date night for Monday Night Football? Yes. Skip chores to watch 3 games in a row? Yes. We get it. Being a sports fan is hard on relationships. That's why our expert counselors teach strategies like faking enthusiasm for home improvement shows, scheduling quality time during halftime, and convincing your partner to join your fantasy league. Need extra help? Our advanced program even includes conflict resolution techniques for when your team's crushing loss ruins your mood for days. Sign up now and we'll include our guide to apology gifts that score big, penalty box relationship counseling, because you can't afford 2 losses in 1 week.
Yeah, I feel like Matt are going to have to meet and kind of talk about this. Not related to like any particular one game, but I'm glad, Matt, that you spoke so honestly about the NBA. That's going to play really well. So.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's move away from NBA, which is definitely a little bit lower, to college basketball, specifically Wisconsin basketball. Big Ten play resumes tomorrow versus Iowa at the Kohl Center. Chris is going. Chris, who are you bringing?
Just me tomorrow.
Okay, just Chris. Our next 4 games are Iowa at Rutgers, Minnesota at home, Ohio State at home, right? So 3 home games in the next 4. What do you believe our record is during that stretch? And then who is going to be the most important player on the team during that stretch that you think is going to matter really the most in terms of how the Badgers fare?
Yeah, it's a good question because the Badgers have played 1 game in the last 2 weeks. Like, this is the longest stretch I can ever remember the Badgers really not playing. So I'm a little worried about rust tomorrow night specifically. But I do think we can get all these home games. Going to Rutgers is just a tough place to play. They also have 2 really high recruits, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. So
number 2
that's
and
going to
number
be
4, respectively, out of all.
Yeah, and they're both super good too. So I'm going to go 3-1. I think we take care of the home games. I think the most important player during this stretch, I've said this multiple times on the podcast, I think it's John Blackwell. I'm still waiting for him to take that next step and really just kind of light it up against some of these big teams. And now that we're in Big Ten play, we're going to need other guys to step up too. I'm not going to throw out any names because I don't want to spoil either of your takes, but I think John Blackwell, like, it's his time to sort of take over from what John Tonji started the year with. And if he does, I think the Badgers are going to be in a really good spot.
Man, yeah. I mean, let's talk about stealing thunder there, Chris.
Yes.
I literally had 3-1 written down, winning the home games, losing at Rutgers. I think Stephen Crowell is a big important piece to this Badger squad, and I only mean it because he gets in foul trouble super quick, and he gets himself into trouble. If he can find a way, not necessarily offensively, to stay out of foul trouble, get himself to be a dominant post player, pass out of the post, get our guys some open threes, I feel like this is a beneficial thing. We can't shoot 25% from 3 points and expect to win to the basketball games. John Blackwell is the guy that needs to be the man. And Chris is right. He needs to get downhill. He needs to play good defense. And he can't turn the ball over. If he does that, the Wisconsin Badgers are a different team. And I believe, John Tonje is going to be who he is. He is officially became a Wisconsin Badger favorite in the last 8 to 10 weeks here. But John Blackwell is the guy that's going to make this team go when it comes to March.
Yeah, so pretty much Matt, you saw exactly the same thing I said. It's fine
Look
though.
at us go.
So yeah, we're just stealing each other's thunder. Here's the thing. I think we go 3-1 as well. I think we could win at Rutgers though. It would not shock me. We are the more experienced team. Yeah, they have those two freshmen, and I get it. And it feels like going to Rutgers, we always just struggle there. I think that's the biggest thing. It's almost the indicator for us that's going to be 3-1. I think we could win there. You guys, I mean, I think Crowell really is the most important because I think when he's playing really well and not just dominating physically in the post, which he needs to do more, right? And even guard call him out for that. But when he's hitting the 3-pointer, that completely changes our whole team because all of a sudden the big that's guarding him can't kind of like slouch into the lane. He has to come out on him. So if he's willing to kind of like shoot that at least a little bit more consistently, man, I think it changes our team. And so I'm really hoping to see that from him. Yeah, I think if anything, we just need to get everybody that plays more regularly involved. So if we can get all 9 involved, really, man, I feel good about our team. I just think we play better when we play more team basketball instead of relying on Tanji or Blackwell or one guy to really kind of get the offense going. And we've seen games where we play as a team, and maybe Tanji takes over a little bit, but where we just make right decisions. And it feels like, especially, I think we've just fallen off a little bit in some of the confidence. So I hope we kind of gain that back a little bit. Chris, where are your seats again?
So I have 3 seats. I have one that's 5 rows from the court. It's just a single seat, which is when I go by myself. That's where I sit. And then I have 2 in that same section, but it's more towards the back of the section, probably like 25 rows up. So I sell those when I go by myself.
And so you sold the tickets for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I did.
Nice. You make money?
Yeah, actually I made money on these ones. It's hard to do, especially early in the year, but it's Iowa, so.
Let's go. Yeah, we got to beat Fernandez, that's for sure. Who will probably go Fernandez during.
I hope so.
Well, hey, let's move to another Wisconsin sport. Let's talk Wisconsin football here. There's just been a lot happening, right? This is the first year in 23 years we haven't been to a bowl game. I think I felt that, where I was like, wait, I'm not looking forward to December 30th or January 1st bowl game.
Yeah.
That's like really what I've done almost every Christmas or winter for the last 23 years. Like, I've thought about it, I've planned for it. So yeah, we didn't have that this year, and so I think there's been a lot of change within Wisconsin in general. We named a new offensive coordinator. If you remember, we fired Phil Longo, who's now at Sam Houston as the head coach. Might be good for him. But we named this guy named Jeff Grimes our offensive coordinator. Chris, you might know the most about us, but what are your thoughts on this guy? And yeah, are you excited about him?
Yeah, I'm excited because I think we realized that the air raid just doesn't work at Wisconsin. And I do think there were a lot of skeptics when that first happened. And I tried to be the optimist as always. Like, yeah, I think it can work. But we just never got the personnel to actually run that system. So I don't know if Phil Longo is a good coach or not. Not really what we're talking about here. But Jeff Grimes really kind of brings back a little bit of that old school. He's a run-first offensive coordinator, but he likes getting receivers in space and completing those sort of high percentage throws. Like I envision like watching sort of the Minnesota Vikings as an interesting comp because they want to be a run-first team, and then they run a lot of play action to get receivers in space. So this is going to look more like a traditional Badgers offense. So I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like. But what I like, as we're going to get to, is there's been some additions in the portal that I think fit more schematically of what the Badgers want to do. So I'm definitely really excited about this hire. I don't think it was like the home run hire that people thought. But when you actually look at his track record, he's a really good fit for what I think we need to get back to as a program.
Yep, and Chris said it. Yep, they're run game first, right? He exploits the defense with long passes, vertical passing game. A little bit back more to Wisconsin football with just a little bit of an explosive element. We're gonna maybe do a little bit more play action, and that's okay. I feel like that gets us back to our roots a little bit. I think I saw that last year with Kansas, right? He was with Kansas. That they averaged 14.3 yards per pass. That's crazy for a team that you don't think of as being a college football juggernaut. They averaged 14.3 yards per pass. That's a really good thing to look at while they ran the ball 60% of the time. So I think it's going to take, it's going to take a little time. We can't expect year one to this to be the best thing that we've ever seen, but I am excited to see what year 2, maybe 3 has to come.
Yeah, I think for me, I think what I'm most excited about is that it feels like we're not always going to be in shotgun. Like he's going to go under center some, whoever the QB is. And I mean, we just see it in the pro game. When you can do both, when you can go under center and you can be in the shotgun, it just changes your team. If you're only doing one, I think it actually helps the defense a lot. And so I think that's what I'm most excited for, just generally. But yeah, we need to get back to Wisconsin football. I mean, I think when Phil Longo was hired and the air raid was brought in, I think a lot of people were just excited about something new because it was new. And if anything, we're modernizing Wisconsin football. We need to do that. That was kind of the rhetoric. And then it didn't work. And I think what you find in the Big Ten is that actually running the spread, you have to have really good position players and you have to have a good quarterback. And honestly, we just haven't had a consistency in either of those areas at wide receiver or quarterback while Phil Long was there. And yeah, I think even just some of the play calling was questionable. So I'm really excited for this guy. Completely trust the hire. I don't know what a home run hire would be, to be honest. So I think if anything, I'm really excited for what he's going to bring, because I think it'll be different in a good way.
Yeah, I think just a lot of the names people were bringing up were like these young offensive coordinators, like the guy at UNLV, things like that. But again, I don't know if those would have been good fits. But as I think about it, like if you look at a good offense, play action needs to happen. Like at any team, any level, if you can run a good play action, you will be successful in offense. And we got away from that, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. Well, hey, we brought up QBs. Let's talk about the QB room because it's completely changed at Wisconsin. Out are Tyler Van Dyke, who remember got hurt in the Alabama game, tore his ACL out for the year. The much maligned Braden Locke also is out. Mabry Matur, I don't think anybody really knew who that was. He's out. And then Landon Locke, Braden's brother, who had committed, decommits, especially when Braden Locke decided to leave. So those are the ones that left. Out in come Billy Edwards Jr., who played at Maryland last year. I think initially before that played at Wake Forest. Danny O'Neal, who started as a true freshman last year at San Diego State. He comes in, has 3 years of eligibility left. And then we recruit a guy named Carter Smith, who I believe is a 4-star. Is that right?
High 4-star, yeah.
Yeah, high 4-star.
We beat him over Michigan to get him.
Man, that's awesome. So which new QB intrigues you the most? Yeah, maybe what have you read or what have you heard?
I like Billy Edwards Jr. I think he's going to fit our offense perfectly in terms of what Grimes wants to do. If you look at his numbers, he threw for like mid 3,000 yards at Maryland. Played on a really awful team, so it's hard to really look deeply into his percentage and interceptions. But he seems like a guy that's going to be able to run the play action and hit guys open in space. As we talk about receivers, I think we picked up some guys that are really going to help in terms of our offense and areas that we're missing. So we only have him for 1 year. He's coming in as a 1-year transfer. But I think he can help sort of set the stage for a guy like Carter Smith in the future. So yeah, I really like Billy Edwards. I think he's the perfect stopgap. I don't think he's a national championship quarterback, but I think he'll be the best quarterback we've brought in the last couple of years. In terms of Mordecai, Van Dyke, I think he can be better than both of them.
Yeah, I mean, my most intriguing guy obviously is Carter Smith. I mean, to get him from Michigan, to lure him in when he has every other opportunity, he chooses to come to Wisconsin. That's a big deal. Billy Edwards is going to get the nod as a starting quarterback this year, and that's a good thing. I think having a guy like Billy Edwards teach Carter Smith is going to be something that he needs. Now, our problem is going to be, do we believe that he sticks around if he doesn't play year one, right? Here, transfer portal issues. Addition by subtraction, you would say, like, we lost Braden Locke, we lost maybe Mettauer, we lost Landon Locke. I mean, we've lost how many quarterbacks, but are we really missing anything going forward? If Carter Smith sticks around, I believe he's the man for this offense. I think he's the one to watch. I can't wait to see what 2 or 3 years brings from now.
Man, it's just a bummer that we didn't see what Tyler Van Dyke could do through the whole year. I mean, that is the loss here. But I think subtracting all those guys, bringing these guys in, it is exciting. And I think our QB room is better. And man, do we get to 7 wins or 6 wins next year? I don't know. Our schedule is insanely difficult. But like Chris said, I think this is the best QB room we've had in a while here. Let's talk wide receiver, tight ends. Subtracting Will Pauling, who I know a lot of us loved here. CJ Williams, both those guys out. CJ Williams was touted from Oklahoma State. Was okay. I think had flash moments. Again, there's just a lot of I think Phil Longo, there's issues there. I think there's issues within the quarterback stuff. So didn't really probably get to see the best of him. But we bring in Mark Hamper, Jaden Ballard, and Tanner Koziel. Am I right there? Okay, give it to you. I won't be able to speak to this much. Which addition stands out here the most for us here?
I'll take the low-hanging fruit, and that's Tanner Koziel. He was the number 1 tight end in the transfer portal. Last year at Ball State had 94 receptions for 839 yards and 8 touchdowns. Like, he instantly becomes the best tight end we've had in who knows how long. And he's a guy that can catch the ball over the middle, which is a need that we've been needing to fill. So he comes in, he only has 1 year of eligibility. But Koziel, it was a huge pickup. He's going to be an NFL tight end a year from now. So to get him in the transfer portal as a security blanket for Billy Edwards is absolutely huge, and probably, I would say, our best transfer portal pickup of the entire offseason so far.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I would have went there, but part of me just wants to say, man, to take a guy from the Ohio State University, Mr. Jaden Ballard, right? Ballard. And to get him to come to Wisconsin, it does mean something. That this guy has all the intangibles. Let's just watch it play out. I do like Hamper. As a freshman, just was impressive all year. But I don't know if he does much in our current scheme next year, maybe 2 years from now. But I do love Jaden Ballard to make an impact next year.
We haven't had a really good tight end in a while. Or since Jake Ferguson, really. And so, or at least one that's consistent. So to get this guy, I think you're right, Chris. But yeah, Ballard from Ohio State, Hamper from Idaho. Again, it's hard to exactly know how these guys fit, especially with the new offense. But
Can I say one more thing before we transfer?
Yeah.
Not that I want the Badgers to transfer. But one thing the Badgers have done in the portal this year, which we'll see if it works, but basically their strategy has been to, minus Ballard, he's sort of the exception, but they're going after guys at lower end schools, kind of like these low D1, D2, D3 schools. So it's sort of like how we used to recruit, like bring in these 3 stars and develop them. I feel like that's what we're doing in the transfer portal. We're kind of getting these guys that overperformed at these smaller schools. And so I think these are guys that are going to come in with sort of like a chip on their shoulder. And it kind of reminds me of how we used to bring in recruits and walk-ons and So it's just an interesting strategy. We're not going after the high level program guys. And so I'm curious how that works.
I like it.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the safety from Bethel, who, was a D3. That's a D3 school, but in essence was a complete stud there. Do you know the name, Chris?
Ethel.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
do you know the guy's name?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. But yeah, I think you're right, though. That strategy, I think, is going to work. Because these guys often are Wisconsin people. Like sometimes recruits from Wisconsin that have always wanted to play for us. And Chris, I really appreciated that direct. You were kind of not directly aggressive, but you were like, hey, I want to say one more thing. I'm really thankful for that. But it's worth talking about our newest sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by the passive-aggressive Post-it Pack, the ultimate tool for people who hate confrontation, like Chris, but love making a point. Whether it's leaving notes like dishes don't clean themselves, or didn't we agree on sharing snacks fairly? We'll bring up snacks later. Our pack is every scenario covered, with messages preloaded in 3 levels of intensity. Like, firm, and I'm done. You'll never have to say the quiet part out loud. For workplace situations, our office edition includes classics like, please stop microwaving. Which, anybody that's been in that situation is thought the same. And the printer is not my responsibility. They even offer seasonal packs, so you can passive-aggressively wish someone a happy holiday while asking them to stop stealing your coffee creamer. Or just your coffee. You brew a pot of coffee, and then it's all gone all of a sudden. Like, how did that happen? The passive-aggressive Post-it Pack. Let sticky notes do the talking so you don't have to.
Love it.
Yeah,
Very, very good.
Yeah, we need that. Let's talk playoff fantasy football. First of all, let's talk about the league. Curb Your Seinfeld. Currently, Chris, do you want to give us the standings here?
Yeah, so we are entering the last week of the season. We don't do a typical playoff. We go all season. You play every team twice. We have a tie at the top between Brian Schwartz and Justin Parker. And the way our league sets it up is those two will play each other this week. They are both 18-4, which is impressive. And it's going to set up as a winner take all. Winner gets first place, loser gets second place. And then in our third place matchup, we have Jake Payton taking on Ethan Deutsch, also both with the same record at 13-9. So the winner is going to take third place and that last money spot.
It is worth saying
a lot on the line this week.
Jake Payton has had a 4-game losing streak. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah.
And Ethan's had a 5-game winning streak. So, I mean, to get to this point, it's kind of crazy for both teams.
Yeah, it's big.
Well, okay, so that's what's going on. And what's cool is me and Matt Smith, we're playing each other this week. He's the jerk store called, and my name is, I'm going to go with Cha-Cha, which, if you know the scene, it's pretty good. And yeah, I think this is just cool that we don't have playoffs. We know how volatile fantasy football can be, where it's like you have one bad week and you might have the best team in the league, but you get knocked out because of that 1 week. So it's pretty cool we do it English Premier League style, where it's literally just your record at the end. And then it's worth talking about the league pool, and this is a sad topic for me. We do these pick'ems, right, with a confidence pool where you 1 through 16 often out of the games. You put 16 as your top. Hey, I think for sure this team is going to win number 1 all the way down to number 1, which is like, hey, this team is, I think this team is going to win, but I have the least confidence in them. Currently, Chris's team, I Respect Wood, is up 1,599. Giddy Up, which is Brian Fremming, is at 1,573. And me, who is in first much of the year, but has really faltered the last 4 or 5 weeks, is third with 1,537. So it's really Chris and Brian right now vying for the top spot. Those two in particular have put up top weeks the last 5 weeks, and I have not. Chris, do you want to say anything in honor of you here?
I think I'm going to declare this over. I don't think I can lose 25 points in a week. I'm actually going to say this is a butt kicking.
Man, I hope you didn't speak too soon. We should compare. We should talk about our picks next episode, or even just on the chat. Once they're all in.
Sometimes you just get in a zone with the confidence pool, and I just feel like I'm in the zone. All these ones and twos I'm hitting on, and I'm not losing my high end numbers. It's just been an impressive 6-7 week stretch.
I rode particular teams during this 5 or 6 weeks, and it was not good. I always thought the Chiefs would lose at least one game. They never did. I thought the Broncos would win a lot of games. They didn't. I thought the Vikings would lose particular games. They didn't.
See, the other thing is I'm not afraid to pick against the Packers because we're in a league with a lot of Packers fans, and there's going to be some bias. And so those are some weeks that I can pick up some points too.
But you pick against the Packers 75% of the time.
Yeah, I pick against them a lot.
You do.
It does, it's a law of averages. I think it wins me more than it loses me.
I like how you talk about you're optimistic, but really when it comes to your own team, you're pessimistic. I just want to throw that out there. Matt, you're fifth. 1505.
Yes.
Tell us what happened. Why you're middle of the pack here.
Well, I probably rode too much on the Packers. Apparently,
it's fair.
That's probably part of the problem. I guess when I really look at it, 1505. I mean, I'm
pretty good.
I don't feel awful with what I did. I mean, I had a really bad 3 or 4 weeks early in the season. I mean, as many of us did. I mean, when you really look at the overall scheme of it. I had also a couple really nice weeks. I guess week 16 kind of was the kicker for me. I got 97 when a bunch of people were over 100. Yeah, just
week last week. 118.
118 was good. Yep. Hey, you know what? We're only as good as we feel we are. So
not everybody can respect wood as much as Chris respects wood.
Well, you can only respect so much wood.
It's really true.
I think we should respect all wood.
I need to rewatch that scene. I need to rewatch the build up to that question. From Larry.
Two things I just want to point out. Sorry, Phil. I'm cutting off again. This is 2 times in one episode.
Good.
Shout out to Dr. Zayus, a.k.a. Jake Payton, for winning the league pick'em pool right now. He's at 84 to
it's impressive.
80. So feeling pretty good about that. And then kind of a sad shout out to Matt Smith, especially because he's on the pod tonight. An all-play record of 109, 76, and 2, and you are sitting in 7th place.
That's insane.
Which the all-play record would put you in 4th place.
It's insane.
That's a pretty big gap.
Yeah, it's a little sad, but hey, you know what? Next year, we'll lose again.
Here's the thing. It just shows that you're awesome. It shows that your team actually is good. You just got screwed, So you can hang your head that way.
I think the all play is the most underrated stat in fantasy football, and I think my fantasy league is the only site that uses it. But it's the best.
Yeah,
the guy in 4th place is an 85 and 102.
Yeah, how does that happen?
It got hot, man.
Double headers. Must have won the double headers.
Yeah, Matt. Your team is 4th in points. So, just is what it is.
Yep.
Well, okay. Who wins it all? Would you go trust in the Schwartz? Wait, what's the line from Spaceballs?
The Schwartz be with you.
The Schwartz be with you.
So are we going Schwartz be with you or Justin Parker? Who wins it all?
I'm going to go the Schwartz because he has Lamar, who's playing for something, Gibbs, who's playing for something, Henry, and Jamar Chase.
Agreed.
And he has Jamison Williams and TJ Hawkinson. He's got a lot of guys that are playing in big time games.
Yep, 100%.
Man, Schwartz has come a long way. We remember some of the early days in the league. Brian, you've come a long way. I've only won the league once. I had to trade Alvin Kamara to do it, my rookie keeper. You've done well. It's good. Okay, Chris. You've created this playoff fantasy football league, which is so sick. I think I like it more than regular fantasy football, if I'm being honest with you. It's really the best. Yeah. Do you want to just explain what it is?
Yeah. So essentially, we start with 12 teams, and what we do is we do a draft each week. So a lot of the typical fantasy playoff leagues, you just draft a guy and you keep them as long as they're alive. But we do a new draft every week, and it's sort of like a cutthroat league. So in week 1, I think it's 8 teams advance. You have to finish the top 8 out of 12 in terms of scoring, and you move on. Then in the next round, if there's 8 teams and 4 advance, you have to finish in the top 4 to move on. And then the next week, you got to finish top 2, and then ultimately you face head-to-head against someone in the Super Bowl. But it's a new draft every week. Scores reset each week. It doesn't matter how many points you score. You just got to get enough to advance, and you get a clean slate for the next one. It's a ton of fun. I think I like it more too. But there's so much pressure because you only get one quarterback, and if you wait, that might be the difference between moving on or not. Yeah, it's super fun league.
Matt Smith, are you doing the league this year?
I think I'm in. Chris, am I in?
Yeah.
Do we have all the people in the league? Is everybody in?
I think it's everyone coming back.
Okay, it's good. So yeah, it's really not the leftovers of participants in this. Matt, we have this new sponsor related to leftovers. You want to talk to us about this?
Yeah, I certainly do. This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Leftovers Lockbox, the high security container that keeps your precious leftovers safe from roommates, coworkers, and one of your family members who just wants a bite. With biometric locks, tamper-proof seals, and a built-in alarm that screams, "Not yours!" If someone tries to open it, you'll never lose another meal again. Available in a pizza box, casserole dish, and a Chinese takeout box. It even features a "too late" button that will automatically launch a strong-worded text to anyone who dares steal your food. Plus, our optional leftover tracker app will let you monitor your meals in real time, ensuring no one sneaks a bite while you're away. The Ultimate Leftovers Lockbox, because leftovers are love, and love should be protected.
I didn't know if the too late feature was like you shouldn't eat it. Like it's in essence too late to eat it because it's been in there too long. I didn't know if that was.
I love the app. Big fan of the app.
Yeah, great app. Excellent app.
Some people just steal the pepperonis off of a pizza. They won't necessarily eat the whole.
I'm still not over that.
I don't even remember doing that. I think I blacked out.
And then you blamed it on a poor innocent college girl.
It felt right at the time. It felt right. Well, speaking of leftovers, our top 5 here. This was created by Chris Smith, and we actually had to think about it. We were talking about this, pre-show. Our top 5 late night food / snacks. And I was talking to Chris about this. I really don't do this anymore, so I had to kind of bring myself back to high school, college. But yeah, give your top 5 late night food / snacks. Matt, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, same. I don't really eat before bed anymore, but I was thinking back a little bit to college and high school and everything. Like number 5, give me a good old pizza. Give me a frozen pizza. Give me a takeout pizza. I don't really care. Pepperoni, sausage. Give me all the meats. I don't really. Let's make it good. Number 4, let's go through that drive-through Taco Bell.
Yeah, it's so good.
Let's hit it late. Let's hit it good, and let's just make sure it's hitting us out the wrong end on the way out.
If you guys ever go again, sorry to interrupt you. If you ever get a burrito, ask for it grilled. That's move. Have you ever thought about that before?
No, not really. That sounds amazing.
It really is that good. So,
number 3, I kind of recently gotten into beef sticks, a little beef jerky. Get just a little bit of a meat texture to give you right before bed. That's all right. Like pumps you up before you crawl in with the wife. Number 2, topper sticks. I mean, has anybody ever not wanted topper sticks when they were in college and they were like, let's order the triple order with all 3 sauces. Let's get it delivered so all of us can enjoy it. Topper sticks, number 2. And number 1, chicken wings. The best appetizer on the planet. Legend Larry style. Out of Sheboygan, by the way. If anybody comes up to Sheboygan, I mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Legend Larry's out of Sheboygan. Best chicken wings ever. Bang.
Yeah, I'll have to go to Sheboygan. They're also known for polka, Sheboygan Shuffle. So I might have to go to Legend Larry's.
Very, very big in Sheboygan.
Very big.
Chris, what about you? You have an interesting list. Really specific.
So I am being smart and I'm going to eat from home. I'm not going to pay money on takeout here.
Yeah, that's good.
And I also don't eat late anymore, but this would be my list. Number 5, Pop-Tarts, specifically the cinnamon brown sugar Pop-Tarts.
Wasn't that the one that was sacrificed in the Pop-Tarts bowl recently?
That was like the s'mores or something like that. But I was going to say that cinnamon roll, yes.
Okay.
That was also a recent inspiration. The Pop-Tart bowl is the most genius marketing of all time, which has made me enjoy Pop-Tarts even more lately.
When the Pop-Tarts ripped open the wrapper.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
It is incredible.
Oh, man.
4, this probably would make no one else's list, but Nilla wafers are incredible and extremely underrated. You can eat them like with a dip, or you can eat them plain, and they taste just as good.
They're so good.
So great late night snack. 3, just a good old string cheese, just to quench the hunger a little bit. And I just bite right into the string cheese. I'm not peeling it.
You're not peeling ever.
Just going right in.
Dang.
Yeah.
Bold move.
2, Matt talked about it, but nothing beats like a late night out and coming home and just cooking a frozen pizza. And then eating it while it's just smoking hot.
Yeah.
And then number 1, I used to do this every night in high school, was end the night with a bowl of cereal with milk. And as you know, Phil, I'm a fan of all the cereals. So just kind of change it up every night. And
Chris has by far the best cereal compilation of anybody I think I've ever met, actually. And it's not even just he has he has all the old-fashioned cereals like Cocoa Pebbles, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but he has them in like store-tight containers. So like that's never going to go bad. It's not going to go bad for like months. It's a good system that you have there. So
I'll send you a picture when I go upstairs.
You should post it in the notes. It's actually that good.
Maybe I will.
You really should. All right, so I'm gonna get my top 5. Chris really helped me with this. I honestly was struggling to think back. My number 5 is cereal with milk. I especially now have that more late night than anything, I think. But that's not historically what I've done. But I think, yeah, that's my top one right now, and it's just easy, and it's usually really good. It's a really good way to end the night. Number 4, popcorn. Especially if you now going to Costco, you get the like popcorn bag, like the big box of them, super cheap, and it's really good popcorn. Of course, Costco making everything good, but their popcorn is really good. And then Emily got this like cheddar cheese powder that like almost replicates the regular cheddar popcorn. Often they get it during Christmas. Insanely good. So we've been having that a lot lately. It's been great. 3, it really is frozen pizza. The topper sticks brought me back to Whitewater because that's the home of toppers. And man, the topper sticks were so good then. But really, historically, it's frozen pizza. Get home, look in the freezer. Oh, I think it was Home Run Inn. I had a lot of Home Run Inn growing up. Man, gosh, it was so good. Number 2, I originally put chips, but man, I think it's just salty snacks in general. Any types of chips, nuts even. I just feel like there's so many different things that I have late now that are just salty, so freaking good. And the last one, this is the one that really, really hits me here, is ice cream. I have eaten ice cream pretty frequently at night for the first 18 years of my life. But then I usually have it a lot. If I have it at home, I'll eat it usually at night. And it just always tastes good. My mom, growing up, would cut lots of strawberries, put sugar on them, and then so you just have vanilla ice cream from Schwann's, Rip Schwann's, and put the strawberries on top of it. Incredible. Just so freaking good. Any honorable mentions from you guys?
Birdseed bar. I mean, you were talking about Schwann's right there. The birdseed bar was always one of those that Schwann's came out with that nobody really ever had. That was always a good late night snack.
Birdseed bar.
Yeah. You don't remember any of those?
No.
Man, you're young.
Chris? 36 years young.
Yeah, I remember the birdseed bar for sure. One that I had on my list I took off was just pretzels. Because I love pretzels.
Dude, I do too. Pretzel rods or like the little sticks.
Yeah.
Those are the best too, I think.
What about butter spindles?
Ooh. Yeah, butter. I don't have them
Cool.
often, but it is good.
Bill, you got any honorable mentions?
You know, I think any dessert. Honestly, if there's dessert in the fridge and it's late, I'll have it. Almost guaranteed. I have such a sweet tooth. And my mom we would always have sweets around. So. All right. Well, this is good, guys. Matt, thank you for bringing Taco Bell into the show. Felt good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for being with us.
Appreciate you guys having me.
So
it's a good time.
Yeah, 2 Smiths in one room. Doesn't get much better than that. So whether it's a chat room or a regular room. Chris, were you going to say something?
No, there's a lot of Smiths everywhere. I was going to say, though, I'm officially declaring this a John Blackwell podcast.
Ooh.
Love it.
We're all on the same page.
Hey, well, now we're on everything. Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. Find us. If you have friends, share it with them, especially if they're in Wisconsin sports. This is the Man Sports Fan Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Go Pack Go.